there is one question that has been dividing four-wheel drivers forever.
And the question is, should you body lift your ute? It wasn't really that serious, I was just trying to be dramatic. So today we're here working on the BT50. We're gonna be doing a 2-inch kit on the side of the road here, which isn't ideal. Gonna be going over the positives and the negatives and all the extra stuff that you need to do to make it work properly. So the kit I've gone with here is from PSR. I was gonna go with Mungie, but they didn't have a bunch of the stuff in stock that I would need. The kit here doesn't even come with instructions, so I'm gonna be using Mungie's ones because they know their stuff for everything 4J. But the reason I had to go with this kit is because they have the steering shaft extension, which when you're going to 2-inch on these cars, you are going to need. So in case you can't tell already, this is my first time doing this, so hopefully nothing's gonna go wrong. But the game plan is, there's a few things I need to undo, like the lower part of the fan shroud. Need to loosen one of the coolant hoses, because as you lift the body up, it needs to be able to spin a little bit to get some extra length. And the steering shaft needs to be loosened as well, so it can expand, then put the extension in later. And then we'll be jacking the car up, putting car stands onto the body, and then lowering down the chassis, I think is gonna be the easiest way to do it. That wasn't my idea, that was one of my friend's ideas. And yes, as with everything when you're modifying a car, especially a more modern car, there is some massive upsides and downsides to everything you do. I know a bunch of you are screaming right now going, why are you body lifting? Why are you body lifting? Here's my point of view. This car is my touring car, as you may or may not know. Been around Australia 2 times with pretty much no issues, but I do kind of want a bit more beastly. No other reason. I wouldn't mind clearing bigger tires as well. So this kit in this car is currently a 3-inch kit, but set at about 2 inches with a small diff drop. But now imagine this, Guy Bush, kit set to 3 inches and doing some hard track CV brakes. That is not an ideal scenario, just because I wanted a bigger lift. And whenever I'm driving, I'm gonna be thinking about those CVs and those angles, even if I get a good diff drop. Or I can put a 2-inch body lift in on top of my 2 inches. I don't have to worry about CV angles, but I do have other negatives, like the massive bullbar gap I'm gonna have to fix. Same with the rear bar, same with the side steps. And obviously having proper suspension lift is going to improve your articulation when you're off-road. This is purely just for the height. But I'm not trying to make the point here that a body lift is in any way better than a suspension lift. I'm just saying maybe they're not as bad as people make them out to be. Just burnt myself. The car's still kind of hot. So before I get into it and jack the car off the floor, I'm going to just quickly go and crack them all, because I imagine the body mount bolts are going to be pretty tight. I'm gonna get some WD-40 as well now and quickly spray around the car, and then we can get straight into it. So for most of you, one of the first steps is gonna be coming in the car, and you're gonna have to pull up your carpet. Mine came up pretty easy because I have taken all this off before when I flooded the car at Cape York, which you can play the video of now. But you're gonna need to get to these. Mine had little rubber grommets there. Some people's just mount straight to the floor and they'll kind of be flush. So I've cracked the back 2 and one of the middle ones, which is just behind the front wheel on the passenger side. But this one on the driver's side, just behind the front wheel, is like the hardest bolt I've ever tried to take off. I cannot get this. I have got with a thinner socket, so it actually fits in here. Fingers crossed. So yeah, that took a while. I would recommend big breaker bar. Now I just need to do the very front too, and then it's time to jack it up. All of those are extremely tight, so just know they will be hard to get off. If you have a ratcheting gun, will probably help. Just impact shock them off. But if you're like me and kind of basic, have fun. And pretty essential for this is going to be a pretty big heavy duty jack. So the only thing I have to do left is quickly just remove this inner guard, just to make sure the fuel filler hose doesn't snap off or break anything as I'm doing this. And I also just realized that I have not been running a mud flap on the back of this car, so I'm going to reinstall that as I'm doing this. Finally time to get this thing moving. And I forgot to mention how I'm going to keep the body off the ground. I have these giant truck stands, which are going to make light work of it. I'll probably put some wood on top just so it doesn't damage the body, and I think they'll do a great job. And now what I've got to do is just undo completely the first one, and then actually pretty much undo the first 4, leaving only the back ones done up with just a little bit of thread, because that's going to help keep everything located and mean that it can't like slip out if something was to go wrong, which might take me a little while because I can't get a socket on most of these. So I'll catch up with you in a second when this is all done. So we have M10 bolts, which are going in the front ones. First, I need to remove factory ones. Factory has these massive rubber grommets. They're about this thick. So I'm assuming my lift block has to go on top of that, which I think is going to make it a lot trickier. Here is the lift block. Drop my new hardware in. I'm also going to do this next one here, and I've got to go loosen the back one. Okay, moment of truth. Slowly drop the chassis down. I let those engine stands hold the body, and then I should have enough room to slide those in. Attempt number 2, I have jacked the car up higher and lifted the stand just a bit. One more stop up. Now I've got to be really careful because there is a lot of room for it to droop. So I need to make sure I go down really slowly and make sure nothing is stretching as I go.
Really slowly.
There we go. I just quickly slid block number 1 in, but to get this on the bottom, I have to jack the chassis back up a bit so that I can have enough thread to put that on. So I'm just gonna quickly try get that one in and send the bolt in there as well. And then I should be good to put them both on just very, very loose just to hold the position. Then do the other side at the front. We in for this one where it's bolting upward. M14 and factory washer. In there. Then now I'm going to jack the chassis back up. Yeah, that's good. And now I should be able to chuck this bad boy into there. Oh, hard with no hands. You get the point. Now I should be able to use the rubber again and fix all that back up. Okay, so to swap the jack around this side, I just chucked this jack stand down there, which just held the chassis up without separating the body from the body mounts too much. Now I'm just gonna go and loosen the back mount first. Cool, now I am jacking the car up as far as it will go. You're going to see as I drop this, the bull bar gap get bigger. Stop. This side I had to pull the bolt through, whereas the other one I put the bolt through the bottom. Now I can chuck the block in. Oh no. So that one is in, and then once again, I have just got to drop it back down a little bit so I can get that one at least tightened on. And I'm hoping the back is going to be a little bit easier because as you would have seen, just jacking up on the diff, which is a nice center point so everything goes up even. But front of the car, it's not so easy. If you're on leaf sprung or solid axles, maybe a bit easier if you use the front diff. So now I'm just going to chuck both of the big stands on either side. Hopefully they fit. So I've undone the hardware and I've got the right gap, but then I realized I need to get access to the back bolt and I don't know where they are. I'm assuming they're somewhere here, but I need to have a look around. Setup is pretty much the exact same as the front. There's a grommet right there. So I do wish that I could show you this a bit better, but I can't even see what I'm doing. So there's no way I'm getting the camera in there. I need to drop the car a little bit lower. So I'm only just now really realizing how much bigger the 2-inch is, especially in terms of the bull bar body lift gap. And I was originally hoping that I would just be able to adjust the bull bar up enough to make it look all right and then get a bracket sorted later. But now I'm really noticing I pretty much have to figure that out ASAP. That is this side done. Now hopefully the front bolt has lined up properly. Hopefully this is the last time I have to jack this car up, for this part of it anyway, because the next part is going to hopefully be me taking the tub off to put a new one on. One of the next videos on the build series is going to be something that I've wanted to do to this car for a really long time, and I need to have a tub that is not cracked to do it. All right, now you can react with me to see if I just bent the body of the BT50. Hopefully not. All you're gonna see is if it isn't bent, the body block should now be touching. You shouldn't see any bolt on top. If it is bent, you will see a lot of bolt on top. Fix me settings so you can see when we go under. Zoom in a bit. Hey, we good. And now I should just be able to slide that on and bolt it up and we are good. So next day, and my agenda is to first tighten up all the body mounts so the car is drivable, and then do the steering shaft extension and fix up the fuel cap stuff that I undid yesterday, and then check to make sure nothing is overly tight in the engine bay that I might just need to like twist hoses and stuff. And then after the car is drivable, it will be on to trying to adjust the bull bar a little bit to make it not absolutely horrendous. So for the extension here, I'm gonna get the camera in there and try and show you, but I won't be able to show you putting it on because it's gonna be a mission. All right, so there's the steering shaft coming from the engine bay connected to the steering wheel, and then down there on the bottom, that is the other half. And then this goes in between. I make sure that the flat spot is the same orientation as what the original one is, and then it should just bolt up. Hopefully I can get this thing in. There we go, that was a little bit of a mission, that bit. Got the steering extender in. You can see that's that middle one. The original is still just there, the steering clamp. Now, it is time to do a quick final check. So this is Corey from the editing den. I was just watching the video back and I realized I did not do a before and after. So here is me looking awkward before the lift. And then here's me after. The height is definitely better and I'm pretty happy with it. Now back to the video. And then I can take it for a test drive. So now I've got the body lift on and it's all installed and it drives perfectly and stuff. Apart from the steering wheel being not straight at all, I'm going to try and fix the bull bar gap a little bit. I'm not expecting to have the full adjustment to get it all the way up, but I'm hoping that I can just reduce it a little bit so while I decide what I'm gonna do with the front section. But that's just another thing you have to think about when you're doing your body lift, what you are gonna do with the front. If you have a factory bumper, all you have to do is bend bumper supporter up a little bit. But if you have a bull bar, you're gonna have to deal with it. So it's looking like there is about, yeah, you can see all that adjustment there. Don't even know how much that's going to equate to when you actually move the bar up, but it's a decent amount. So hopefully that's going to make it look a little bit better for the time being, because I am looking at getting a new bar. I want to get a color matched one this time. I do love this bar here, but it's getting a bit rusty because it's been through some salt water and I don't think the powder coat is the best. So I want to get color matched so it really looks factory almost. I think the company I'm looking at is Rhino 4x4. I've heard good things about them, so hopefully I can get my hands on one of them. I also think that Rhino bar sticks less forward, so the approach angle will be a bit better. It'll be less sticking out, more kind of flush here, and it'll look a bit better. And yep, I'm using this crane because doing this is an absolute mission, especially by yourself. Even with two people, not that fun. So hopefully this will make it a bit easier. I'm really kind of just winging this, but I want to tie it to more of the back of the bull bar, because when you do it on the front and lift, it just rolls backwards. So if I can get it a little bit behind, well, on the center of gravity would be ideal. I'm gonna have to also probably tie it to the 60 series so it doesn't start rolling down the hill, because the driveway is a massive hill. What could go wrong? All right, so now it's time to adjust the bar. It's kind of just hanging at the moment. See if I can get it into a better position. I'm probably gonna use the jack stands as well. So I've been mucking around with this for about an hour, maybe two, and I think I've got it into a spot that is acceptable for now. So how I managed to get it aligned is just using the jack to push it up and then back a little bit, and then the crane is lifting it up, but when you lift it up, the bottom wants to swing out, so then it'll be on an angle going upwards and down towards the back of the car. That's holding that nicely, and on this side, I've not actually had to do anything so far. It is kind of just sitting there nicely. So as long as I'm really gentle on that side, it kind of just sits nicely. Like that's a pretty decent gap compared to before. Obviously not ideal, but remember it was that big before. Now I'm going to go through and tighten the main ones, and then there's the crossbars that go from the center out to like here-ish, which I'll tighten up after. Now hopefully if all things go according to plan, it's just a case of slowly tightening everything and hoping that as I'm tightening it doesn't drop down in any way, which I think I've got the weight pretty well suspended, so hopefully that is it. And then we can move on to step number 3. So there we go, fully installed. Still a pretty big gap, but that is pretty good for stock mounts, no drilling required. Front, side, I cannot be mad with that at all. That all worked out pretty well, but there was a bunch of things I didn't actually get to do in this video, mainly installing the new tub with the body lift, so that is also lifted, and making like custom mudguard flaps to cover the gap, because now there's a lot more space for rocks and stuff to go into the engine bay, and that is because I'm doing these videos weekly on a strict deadline. So if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to see the next videos that are coming out, because what is going on the back of this BT50 is like one of one in Australia. I don't actually think I've seen people post good videos about them before anywhere in the world really. So you're going to want to see this.